Inferno. Canto 5.
Così discesi del cerchio primaio, giù nel secondo, che men loco cinghia, e tanto più dolore, che punge a guaio.
From the first circle I descended thus, down to the second, which, a lesser space, embracing, so much more of grief contains, provoking bitter moans. There, Minos stands grinning with ghastly feature, he, of all, who enter, strict examining the crimes, gives sentence, and dismisses them beneath, according as he foldeth him around. For when before him comes the ill-fated soul, it all confesses, and that judge severe. Of sins, considering what place in hell suits the transgression, with his tale so oft himself encircles, as degrees beneath he dooms it to descend. Before him stand always a numb-roused throng, and in his turn each one to judgment passing, speaks, and hears his fate, thence downward to his dwelling hurled. O thou, who to this residence of woe approachest? When he saw me coming, cried Minos, relinquishing his dread employ, look how thou enter here, beware in whom thou place thy trust, let not the entrance broad deceive thee to thy harm. To him my guide, wherefore exclaimest? Hinder not his way by destiny appointed, so 'tis willed where will and power are one. Ask thou no more. Now gin the rueful wailings to be heard. Now am I come where many a plaining voice smites on mine ear. Into a place I came where light was silent all. Bellowing there groaned a noise as of a sea in tempest torn by warring winds. The stormy blast of hell with restless fury drives the spirits on world round and dashed amain with sore annoy. When they arrive before the ruinous sweep, their shrieks are heard, their lamentations, moans, and blasphemies against the good power in heaven. I understood that to this torment sad the carnal sinners are condemned, in whom reason by lust is swayed. As in large troops and multitudinous, when winter reigns, the starlings on their wings are borne abroad, so bears the tyrannous gust those evil souls. On this side and on that, above, below, it drives them. Hope of rest to solace them is none, nor e'en of milder pang. As cranes, chanting their dole-roused notes, traverse the sky, stretched out in long array, so I beheld spirits, who came loud wailing, hurried on by their dire doom. Then I, instructor, who are these, by the black air so scourged? The first mong those, of whom thou questionst, he replied, o'er many tongues was empress. She in vice of luxury was so shameless, that she made liking be lawful by promulged decree, to clear the blame she had herself incurred. This is Semiramis, of whom 'tis writ, that she succeeded Ninus her espoused, and held the land, which now the Soldan rules. The next in amorous fury slew herself, and to Sishu's ashes broke her faith. Then follows Cleopatra, lustful queen. There marked I Helen, for whose sake so long the time was fraught with evil. There the great Achilles, who with love fought to the end. Paris I saw, and Tristan, and beside 1,000 more he showed me, and by name pointed them out, whom love bereaved of life. When I had heard my sage instructor name those dames and knights of antique days, o'erpowered by pity, well nigh in amaze my mind was lost, and I began, Bard! Willingly I would address those two together coming, which seems so like before the wind. He thus, note thou, when nearer they to us approach, then by that love which carries them along, entreat, and they will come. Soon as the wind swayed them toward us, I thus framed my speech, O wearied spirits! Come, and hold discourse with us, if by none else restrained. As doves by fond desire invited, on wide wings and firm, to their sweet nest returning home, cleave the air, wafted by their will along, thus issued from that troop, where Dido ranks, they through the ill air speeding, with such force my cry prevailed by strong affection urged. O gracious creature and benign! Who ghost visiting, through this element obscure, us, who the world with bloody stain imbrued, if for a friend the king of all we owned, our prayer to him should for thy peace arise, since thou hast pity on our evil plight. Of whatsoe'er to hear or to discourse it pleases thee, that will we hear, of that freely with thee discourse, while ere the wind, as now, is mute. The land, that gave me birth, is situate on the coast, where Poe descends to rest in ocean with his sequent streams. Love, that in gentle heart is quickly learnt, entangled him by that fair form, from e'en in such cruel sort, as grieves me still. Love, that denial takes from none beloved, caught me with pleasing him so passing well, that, as thou seest, he yet deserts me not. Love brought us to one death, kine awaits the soul, who spilt our life. Such were their words, at hearing which downward I bent my looks, and held them there so long, that the bard cried, What art thou pondering? I in answer thus, Alas! By what sweet thoughts, what fond desire must they at length to that ill pass have reached? Then turning, I to them my speech addressed, and thus began, Francesca, your sad fate even to tears my grief and pity moves. But tell me, in the time of your sweet sighs, by what, and how love granted, that ye knew your yet uncertain wishes? She replied, No greater grief than to remember days of joy, when Miss Awy is at hand. That kens thy learned instructor. Yet so eagerly if thou art bent to know the primal root, from whence our love gat being, I will do, as one, who weeps and tells his tale. One day for our delight we read of Lancelot, how him love thralled. Alone we were, and no suspicion near us. Ofttimes by that reading our eyes were drawn together, and the hue fled from our altered cheek. But at one point alone we fell, when of that smile we read, the wished smile, rapturously kissed by one so deep in love, then he, who ne'er from me shall separate, at once my lips all trembling kissed. The book and writer both were love's purveyors. In its leaves that day we read no more. While thus one spirit spake, the other wailed so sorely, that heart-struck I through compassion fainting, seemed not far from death, and like a corpse fell to the ground.